Advanced Dungeons and Dragons is widely considered to be one of the greatest role-playing games ever made. I am going through an exercise in solo play to demonstrate that it is also one of the best miniature war games ever made, which makes sense because the lineage goes chainmail, old D&D or original D&D, and then Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. This is the patrimony. There are a couple of offshoots, a couple of cousins, a couple of bastard children, if you will. They're called Holmes, sometimes called Blue Holmes, Moldvay, Basic, and Expert. Excised huge chunks of this game that we are investigating, and we're doing this with an eye towards developing tabletop miniature war game battles. But also, I wanted to show you that buried within this rule book, and I'm not really revealing any secrets here, we all know that Gary provided costs for expert hirelings, and we've all dreamed about using this table. Oh, wouldn't it be great if I had a guy get to name level and I got to sit down and go through this exercise? I'm here to tell you, you don't have to wait. You can do that right now. In fact, if you want to do a domain level game, you don't need a rule book like Birthright. Everything you need is right here. Again, we're doing a solo exercise here. It's not quite the same, but if you wanted to, you could build, you and your buddies could get together and say, hey, look, let's just generate a map, something like the Wolflands over here. So called because our random tables wound up hitting wolves pretty hard, which makes sense because when you build a wilderness using the tables in this book, man, this guy never skips a leg day, does he? When you use the random tables in the Dungeon Master's Guide, yeah, it's a rare daytime video for me. You'll have to forgive the sounds of the homestead here. When you use these wilderness tables, and I'm not going to show you right now, but trust me when I say wolves are very common. Okay, I lied. I am going to show you. These are the random encounter tables for uninhabited wilderness areas, temperate and subtropical conditions. In the plains, you have a 1% chance of getting giant weasels. See, that's the line right there, 1% chance. But you have a 10% chance of getting wolves, 88 to 97. Likewise, where we are in the scrublands, which is right here. You have a 5% chance of getting wolves compared to simply a 2% chance. So you are 2.5 times as likely to get giant wolves. It makes sense that the Wolflands are full of wolves, but more to the point, it makes sense that a land full of wolves would be called the Wolflands. That's how we wound up with that name. We are in this hex, the Deadwood. This is rated as rough terrain, scrub, broken lands. Some great cataclysm occurred here. Probably has something to do with this giant crater, which is located about 10 miles southwest of Castle Weasel, which the Hammer's brothers, we could go with the whole like Mario Brothers thing here, right? Or Mario the Plumber anyway, he used a hammer at one point. At any rate, Castle Weasel all the weasels have been thrown out, and we are going to take advantage of the fact that we have a half-built castle to save ourselves a lot of time. We're going to reclaim it. We put together an expedition, and here's where the solo game and the solo hex clearing game comes to the fore. Because we are going into these dangerous lands, we know the Landsconnects, those are Landsconnect orcs, are out here. We know there's a goblin tribe, we know there's evil dwarves, there's a lot of giant toads, and we can look at our random table and say, oh, in the scrublands, probably going to run into some ogres. Now the wolves, of course, are at a 7 and an 8 on a 2d6. They're going to be the most common thing we encounter. Wolves appear 2 to 20. So we want to make sure that when we go out there, we have at least 100 guys with us. Something like that. Probably like 50 fighting men. If the orcs show up, there's going to be 30 to 300 of them. Could get complicated. Bear in mind, on this table, I have the Snake Eyes. Gives you why don't you go back to the full book and re-roll so that anything could happen. We want to leave the door open for wild surprises. That's how we pretend like we have a real DM capable of surprising us. Our DM is that fickle goddess Eris, not Eros, unfortunately. We also have this box cart, Dealer's Choice. We can step back and say what makes the most sense for our little 30-mile hex. But today I really want to go into the logistics of how we're going to retake and rebuild Castle Weasel and how we're going to protect our construction crews. Once we get Castle Weasel banged out into shape, we can actually send those workers down here to the crater where they can do a little digging. And likewise, I don't know what's in there, so I built myself a little random table. Get used to seeing these random tables. Nowadays, the Poindexters use the phrase procedural generation. And then they snort and they shove their glasses up, their taped together Coke bottle glasses, because procedural generation has more syllables, so you can tell that it's what smart people say. Because I'm not a smart people, I say random tables. So it could just be, now I got to spend 500 gold, I got to have a sage and all that. But then I roll to find out what the loot is, and it could be an old battlefield with a lot of treasure. It could be a dead comet that landed. It could be an artifact, and it could be a 5th level dungeon, right? So the latter two, a little less likely. But get used to seeing this sort of thing. Designing these kind of tables for yourselves is very rewarding. It can lead to some great surprises. This is called the Near Scrublands, but we're going to call it because it's Roger the Hammer Steiner, it's probably going to be the Steinlands, which would be in great keeping if you had a full hex. We could do a Steinstein at the end of the day. Like, which of the Steiners is going to run it? Wouldn't that be great? That would be delightful. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I need to build myself a little military, and fortunately, in the back of your mind as we go through this exercise, I've got some blank paper. Fortunately, Gary gives us everything we need right here in the book with the pretty lady on the cover. We haven't discovered anything new in the expert hirelings table of monthly costs in gold pieces. This has been here the whole time. People have kind of toyed around with it a little bit. Let's put it into practice. We give ourselves a budget. The Steiner family is a wealthy family over in Harrington, located about a week's journey to the east, meaning it's going to take a week to get over there. It's actually like 5 or 6 days, and then another week to get back. So every 2 weeks, we can have a shipment back and forth. Because we've zoomed out a little bit, I'm not worried about Roger himself and what is his armor class. Is he using his shield? We are moving away from the 6-second combat round, and we are moving into the realm of, it's not just me I care about, it's my whole team I care about. My pawn is not the one little character sheet that I've got where I have to worry about his strength. Instead, my pawn is going to be a squad of 10 guys. And I chose 10 for 2 very important reasons. One, it is a wonderful ratio that's easy to work with. You Euro bros know what I'm talking about. It has its advantages. See this little figure here? When I have a swordman figure on the table, I can say that swordman figure represents 10 soldiers. I have expanded. My resolution has changed now. I don't care which of those 10 soldiers is the strong one and which is the dumb one. All I care about is, on average, they are about 2 to 7 hit points strong. I'm wielding not one miniature, well, I'm wielding one miniature either way, but whether it is one Paul Blart or this miniature represents 10 swordsmen, below the fact that it's 10 swordsmen, I don't care. And so that's the exercise that we're going through here today. But we need to worry about the logistics. My PC has to worry about whether or not he can afford a bastard sword or a broadsword. I need to worry about how many units of light footmen or heavy footmen or even medium cavalry that I can handle. And so we're going to go through this, take a look at how it works. The other reason I like the 1-to-10 ratio is because if you look at the descriptions of these well, it says mercenary soldier, but this is, that's where we're at right now, okay? This is a little bit outside the realm of your henchmen, and I achieve name level, and people just want to work for me because I have a proven track record of success. I am part of a family that is trying to reclaim its heritage. It's trying to, maybe they have a claim on the near Scrublands. Maybe Castle Weasel was built by their ancestor 400 years ago before the Great Cataclysm. I don't know. I don't care. At this point, it doesn't really matter. We can fill those gaps in later. What does matter is if I want to buy 100 footmen, light, heavy, doesn't matter. The only difference from a financial perspective is that the heavy footman costs twice as much. Every one of those guys costs 2 gold a month. Every light footman costs 1 gold a month. I also need to outfit those guys. But if I have 100 of these guys, I need to worry about a whole chain of command. If you've ever had to organize 100 people, what you do is you break it down into teams. We call them squads. And I'm going to call them decades because there's going to be 10 of them. And if you read the description for Sergeant, he's actually on the next line above. Thanks for splitting. And Gary, why didn't you know that I was going to be doing a YouTube channel? See, here's Sage, Scribe, Steward, Weapon Maker. Where did Sergeant go? EFG. I feel like he should be in there. Is he up at the top? Oh, yeah, he is. He's very special. He's so special he gets his own line within the context of the mercenary soldiers. So we got to look at that guy real quick. And spoiler alert, I'm not going to show you all the rules here. Take my word for it. Go look at page 29 on your own. One sergeant can command 10 guys. And so that raises an interesting question. I got my little Paul Blart here. Does he represent 10 soldiers plus a sergeant? Well, you could do that. I wouldn't object to it. What I'm going to do when I cost out these guys, and let's start with costing out the light foot. I know I'm going to want some light troops. I know I'm going to want some heavy troops. The light troops will be used as scouts. The heavy troops will be used as guardians of the castle and the construction works. I know I'm probably going to want some shooty boys. I don't know whether it's going to be archers or crossbowmen at this point. I also want at least some horsemen. Now, I might start with light horsemen because they're going to be a little bit cheaper, but we'll take a look at that as we go. Key thing for where we're at right now is I'm going to hire 9 troops at a time, and I'm going to add a sergeant to keep those 9 guys in line. The other thing to be aware of is that you're going to need to hire 1 lieutenant for every decade of troops. Your sergeant is a first-level fighter, and he can command 9 guys. Your lieutenant is a second-level fighter, or a third, and for every level he's got, he can boss around 2 sergeants. So a third-level lieutenant can boss around 3 sergeants, and a second can boss around 2. The difference is that a second-level lieutenant costs 200 gold pieces a month, and a third level costs 300. So what I'm going to do is, for now, my lieutenants are all going to be second level. Now, this is also important because we need to look up one more level of command there, and that's this fellow right here. He is the captain. And again, you see the special. I'll throw my ruler down. Oh, and because we're doing decades here, I'll go ahead and do you Euro bros a little favor. Here's captain special. See, we're doing the centimeters for you guys. The captain, again, costs 100 gold pieces per level. He's going to be the most expensive guy. For every level that your captain has, he can command 1 lieutenant. Let's take a look at the rules here. Just to be fair, a captain is a capable leader, a fighter of 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th level. A captain can command as many scores of troops as he or she has levels. Oh, so here's where all of these ratios start falling into place. For example, a 4th level, a captain can't be 4th level because it starts at 5th. Oh, Gary, you scamp. I would look for the name of the editor in this book, but apparently he doesn't have one. That's not a big deal, right? So if I have a 5th level captain, I can command a total of 100 guys. And again, going to be doing a lot of rounding in this. I'm not going to stress out so much about if I have 101 or 102. A 5th level captain can command 100 troops. So that's 10 decades. Oh, but wait a second. I also need all of those lieutenants. So that's going to be 105. It's going to be fine when we're at about the 100 level. When we go up to the 200 level, we're going to need a captain. We're going to need a much more capable captain, all right? This also tells me that I need my boss man, my PC, to be, well, you know, he's got to be higher ranked than the captain. We may start with him at 6th level. I'm not entirely sure yet, but we'll use the PC rules for him. When I look at that guy, I've got my microscope dialed all the way down to, does he have a club foot? Does he have a hair lip? Is he crazy strong? Is he crazy good looking? Is he, you know, that's where you do that. But when I talk about my captain, I may give my captain a name, but I'm not naming all these lieutenants. There's going to be way too many of those guys. I'm certainly not naming my sergeants. All I need to know is that this is the first decade of the 2nd platoon, that kind of thing. Hey, we're talking in war game terms, and we're using the rules that Gary gave us in AD&D. This is why I feel perfectly comfortable saying AD&D is a war game, in addition to its patrimony. So where does that leave us? Well, the first thing to be aware of is that what I like to do to enable my budgeting is just take a look at how much does a light footman cost? Well, it costs 1 gold piece per month, and then the sergeant costs 10 times that. So if I have 9 footmen plus a sergeant, that's going to be 19 gold pieces a month. You know, I'm going to round up. I'm going to give them each a 10% bonus so that we're just paying, and I'm going to do that for a couple of reasons. One, I take care of my people. I take care of my boys. The other thing is, I don't want to deal with 19 gold pieces. I got to spend 50,000. I'm not going to quibble over a gold piece here or there. Instead, I'm just going to call it 20 gold pieces per month for these guys. But I do need to equip them. Notice that when we get to the support staff, like alchemist, armorer, blacksmith, those monthly costs include all of the costs of the laboratory. For the blacksmith, that would be whatever equipment he brings along, the kind of consumables. I'm assuming that because I've hired him and brought him out, The cost of such things as an anvil and the forge and all that are kind of built in. I may slow down my construction at first, take a month to get things set up, and then start in on the construction proper. That assumes that we survive the first month. First month is primarily clearing and keeping the guys in the base camp safe, putting up some preliminary defenses. We'll talk about that in a future video. For today, as I said, I want to know what my salary is going to be per month, and I think I'm going to go ahead and pay these guys for a 6-month stint. In other words, my decade of light footmen is going to cost me 120 gold pieces, plus whatever it costs to equip them. And to equip them, now I'm viewing these guys as the captain of Faramir, the rangers in Lord of the Rings that went after the Oliphant. These guys are going to be, let me zoom out just a little bit more so we can see this. I'm going to pack them in leather armor. They're sneaky boys. Now for armor, when I write this down, I'll show you a little bit later what my budget looks like. That includes the small helmet. That's 15 gold pieces. Everybody is going to cost me a minimum of 10 gold pieces. Then I come down here and I look at how much the costs are to equip these guys. And like I said, I'm just going to get them short bows. I feel comfortable with this. You could argue with me that, wait, light footmen are not archers. You should be paying the archer rate for these guys. And I wouldn't argue too much with that. Short sword is 8 gold pieces. The short bow is 15. That's 23, plus another 2 for the quiver and the arrows. That's 25, plus the 15 for the leather armor and the helmet. And altogether, sword, bow, armor, we're looking at, what did I say, about 60 gold pieces. It's 15 for this, 25 for this. That's only 40. So 400 gold per decade. When we get to the heavy footmen, I'm going to buy them chain. These guys are going to be a lot more in your face. They're not taking advantage of cover. I want to armor them up good. So it's going to be 85 for the armor, and then I'm going to get them a real sword. I'm going to get them a broadsword. I'm going to get them a spear for 1, and then a little wooden shield. So that makes the numbers a little more grotty, a little more, not quite so nice and round, because the broadsword is 10, the spear is 1, the small wooden shield is 10. So that's 21 plus 85. That's, oh boy, that's 106. Let's call it 110, okay? 1,100 to outfit 10 of those guys. I'm also going to have to spend another 110 for the lieutenant. Because lieutenants can command 2 sergeants, in each case, for the light and the heavy boys, I'm going to go ahead and get 2 decades. So my starting core force is going to be 20 Lightfoot and 20 Heavyfoot. And the Lightfoot are armed with short bows. They're not great. They're not designed for close action. I could probably argue, if I was a DM and a player came to me with this setup, if I was a DM and I wanted to run a miniature war games version of AD&D, I would tell everyone, hey, build your forces using 100,000 gold pieces. Use these rules largely as written. Just, be cool, man. Don't try to cheat the system. And what we're doing here, I'm only building a half a force because I'm not really going up against other players. I don't want the mass battles yet. I want to grow organically. I want to clear that hex, and I want to show you guys that if you have 50,000 gold pieces in the bank at, 8th level, this is a valid way to play, and I want to show you how that works. So that's what we're doing. So with all of that said, to start things out, I'm going to need to get my captain is going to be 500. Each of those decades we said is going to be 100. Well, wait a minute, 40. But this is where I wanted to show you the archers. See, look, if we look down here, I need my boy again. Here we go. So for a short bow archer, these guys are trained to operate in units, ready, aim, fire, whereas my light guys are scouts. So I think maybe what I'll do is I'll pay my light footmen the short bow rate. And I'm going to argue that these are more rangers. These are light skirmish troops that are well drilled and trained to operate in rough ground. Skirmishers, not mass body troops. Paying them a little bit more helps me rationalize and justify that. With that said, we may want some archers as well. We're going to have some shooty platforms. We're going to stand behind some walls. We want to be able to project force at a distance. So I am going to hire some longbowmen. Now, those are fairly expensive, both in terms of 4 gold pieces per month per man. That's going to be 80 for the month. 36 for the 9 troops plus 40, rounding up by just 4 just to get to a nice round number, 80 a month. What if I wanted to go with crossbowmen instead? Well, they're a lot cheaper, aren't they? Well, that would only be 40 a month. I could save 40 gold pieces a month by hiring crossbowmen. But there's an additional cost to that. Notice that if I'm, and again, they're going to be hiding behind walls, so I'm going to buy them leather armor, shield, of course. Let's look at the difference between the heavy crossbow is 20 gold pieces and the longbow is 60 gold pieces. Wow, the longbow is really expensive compared to the heavy crossbow. So the question is, what do I want? Do I want the punching power or do I want the... the other thing I would recommend is buying chainmail for my crossbowmen. They are such slow shooters. It's a good bet. When we're out on campaign, they're going to be doing some face-to-face fighting. If my archers get contacted by melee troops, I've made terrible mistakes. So that's the big price difference here, is that for 5 versus 75, right? Do I want to spend the extra 70 for armor to save 40 on the weapon? That's still 30 more. Crossbowmen, I'm gonna write them off for now. Later on, when I've got more money and I want a little more flexibility, maybe I'll go with that. Maybe I'll buy a couple of decades, but that's of crossbowmen, but that's for the future. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at archers. It turns out 10 archers is going to be about 850 gold to equip, right? That's that 85 for the leather, the longbow, the arrows, the quiver, and all of that. And then the last thing I want to take a look at here is my horsey boys. Notice that we have 3 different units, classifications, heavy, light, and medium. Well, that's because it's alphabetical order, right? I would put it heavy, medium, and light, but whatever, it's fine. I'm going to go with medium. I need flexibility right now. I need these guys to be able to ride patrol, to escort I'll probably send a decade of them, 10 horsemen out with the caravans, and then 10 stay at home for like loose scouting and reinforcements for if guys are running back for the castle. So 2 of those. And of course, horses are going to be really expensive. Now, they're not any more expensive than my archers, right? Archers are 4, my riders are 4, but the setup costs, those are redonkulous. In fact, I wonder if I should add another one. I'm assuming this includes the upkeep of the horse. Problem with the horsemen is that they require horses, which is no big surprise. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. I'm just putting things together in a way that you might not have seen before. So what kind of horse are we going to buy? Right up here, we've got a medium war horse is 225, and that saves us 75 gold pieces. If we wanted the heavy war horse, it would be another 750 per decade just to get them equipped. Like I said, I'm splitting the difference. Gonna go with medium for now. And then my guys are going to be outfitted the same way as the heavy foot. Notice with the heavy foot, I did buy some spears. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. I'll show you the whole spreadsheet sooner. I did buy a spear and a small wooden shield for my heavy foot. I'm going to do the same for my riders. They, of course, are also going to need a harness, a bit and bridle, and then the saddle blanket and a saddle and all of that. Call it like 12, 13, 14, call it 15, call it what you will. All together, you're looking at another 240 gold pieces per boy. So it's still 110 for the rider, and then it's another 240 for the... I think I made a mistake with my math here. I did. It's actually going to be 3,500. So make that change to my battle sheet. So let's take a look at what we can afford now that we've priced out these 5 different potential units here. All right, and this is how I've organized it for now. We can have a little fun and we can name these guys. Maybe our light foot, remember we're Castle Weasel, so maybe we call these guys the Longtails. Maybe we call these guys the Blackfoots, right? Something, so the biters, scratchers, something weaselly. Although heroically weaselly. They are giant weasels after all. Not some kind of magical wizard, broke-ass ginger going to a magic academy. The cool Weasleys. Although he grew into being cool. I know. I'm familiar. I live in a house full of girls. Of course I'm familiar with the Harry Potter series. So if we take a look here at the Lightfoot, just like I told you, to get a decade is going to cost us 400. If I buy 2 of those, it's 800. Oh, but I need to equip a lieutenant. So altogether, it's going to cost me, and the lieutenants are expensive. For 20 troops, I'm only paying 80 a month, but I need the lieutenant. That's 280 a month, plus 840 to get things started. Likewise, if I buy 20 heavy foot to man the walls, that's going to cost me 1,000. Plus, again, I need to 2,000 for 2 decades, but I need that one lieutenant. He's going to cost an additional 10% of a decade, right? It's 100 here, 100 here. So that's going to be 2,100. Notice that I cheated a little bit. This would be 101. I dropped the 1. I'm going to round up later to balance things out a little bit, okay? 280 a month. Archers, it's going to cost me 1,800 to get them equipped. That's this 850 plus 850 plus another 85. That's 1,785. Look, I'm rounding up by 15. On balance, we're okay. I'm going to let my scribe, I'm going to let my accountant deal with those little minor details of shuffling things around. That's 360 a month, okay? Now I have 60, and then like I said, I crossed this out. I priced out my crossbowmen. They're more expensive because I bought them chain rather than leather. I don't want to buy these guys right now. I'm comfortable with my 60, and then I have 1 medium horse. This is a unit of 20 horsemen. I've got 2 different squadrons, and again, these are the most expensive. At 3,500 to equip the 1 unit, it's going to cost me 7,000 for 20 horsemen, plus another 350 for the lieutenant. And again, we go from 80 to 160 gold pieces because I got 2 of them. Wait, does that include the... No, that includes both of them, right? So it's 80 gold pieces a month plus the 200 for the lieutenant. Oh, no, that's for 10 of them. So it's going to be 360 a month. So oddly enough, right, like I said, archers, horsemen, 360 a month. Altogether, we're looking at somewhere around 12,300 for the equipment for the setup of these 80 guys, light, heavy, archers, horsemen. And then it's going to cost me about 1,270 a month. Well, if I multiply this 1,300 by 6, that's going to give me a total price of about 10,000 gold pieces plus the 12,250. And then because I have been auditing as I go, really it looks like we're going to be at about, we're going to call it 21.5. Is that accurate down to the nearest gold piece? You know, I'm not entirely sure, but it is close enough for government work. And we're trying to build a government here. We're trying to build a castle out of the ruins, and we want to make it nice. We want to make a green and pleasant land. We are going to colonize it, and then we're going to invite people with farming knowledge to come settle the lands around us. Trust me, guys, I've got 100 hard case men on the job keeping you safe. So you come in, settle it, give me 10% of your crops. I will sell them on the open market, and I will keep you from getting conquered by those who hate you. This is, of course, a fantasy realm where such things can happen. Although, you know, maybe I'll get to experience that myself for 4 years. Who knows? As we move into 2025, things are looking... 2025. Oh, I apologize for that. Senior moment, my brain just completely shut down. As we move into these early days of 2025, things are looking up, things are looking bright, and we are going to have a great little solo campaign. Once again, let me just apologize for not doing this on the live stream, but it's really complicated, and I am constantly going back and auditing and making sure that I'm doing this right, that I'm making it as accurate as possible and being as fair as possible. In our next episode, we are going to turn our attention to the other side of the table on page 29, and that is the support. So as of right now, I still have a budget of about 30,000 gold pieces. My guys have a 6-month stint, so come July 1st, I'm going to need to come up with another 20,000 gold pieces, although there will be some attrition, so I'm going to have to continue to lay out gold. I need to keep some reserves on hand. I need to send my guys out into the field, and I need to hope that some adventurers come along who want to try to plunder the land that I have now claimed in the name of the Steiner family. I will offer them generous terms. You can go clean out the Reditomb, provided that you return 50% of your loot take to me. That's really high. You wouldn't take that if you were an adventurer, but we're not adventurers anymore. We're the kind of people who hire adventurers. We would be happy with 10%, but if they are stupid enough to accept 25, we ain't gonna turn it down. Which, spoiler alert, will likely lead to another one of these random style tables, except instead of digging up a crater, we may have to generate a little table for what kind of adventuring party came, what kind of level are they, what level of dungeon are they going into, what are the odds that they come out alive, what are the odds that they come out with sufficient goods to, like, they need to come out with just enough that it's worth paying me, but not so much that it's worth skipping out on their debt, right? If they get a massive haul, it's less likely that they return to Castle Weasel to pay off their, whatever, 10 to 25%. Put yourself in the adventurer's shoes. It would be easy as a solo wargamer to say, yeah, of course, we just get 10% of whatever they get. But I'm also the kind of guy that plays on the other side of the table. If I find that gem worth 1,000,000 gold pieces, the last person I'm going to tell is my patron. I'm going out and hawking it for 100,000 and turning myself into a patron, right? So this is kind of the fun we can have. This is why we are really playing a delightful little hybrid between war games and RPGs, and this is where Dungeons and Dragons really begins to shine, and people have just left it on the table. Well, I mean, it's not on the, oh boy, this is a mixed metaphor. It's not on the table. That's the problem. They left it off the table, but we're going to put it on and we're going to show you how much fun it is. Let me just leave you with one last thought here. Yeah, I do that. I have a lot of last thoughts. I put together a force of 80,000, of 80 men. Okay, really it's 85, right? Because there's 4 lieutenants and there's a captain. My 85 guys is very flexible. I nothing exciting, nothing particularly, unusual about it. If you wanted to, for that same 20,000 gold, you could easily get 50 pikemen. Well, maybe not pikemen, they look a little expensive. You get 50 heavy footmen and 30 archers and have the same 80 guys at a much lower rate. Maybe what you do is you get 60 heavy footmen, 40 archers. That's going to lead to a very different game, a very different experience. And this is why I think this is great for a multi-faction hex-clearing adventure where you are allying with the other people, the other players trying to clear the hex, where you are betraying them to try to grab that special MacGuffin, right? If the crater, hey, yeah, go dig up the crater. Hey, DM, I'm going to wait. And when he's just about done digging up the crater on the last day, I'm going to raid his camp and I'm going to steal whatever he finds. Like, I want to be there for the last day so I can finish it off. Don't tell him that. Right? These are the kind of games that we can play when we start thinking from a much broader perspective. When we zoom out and look at the game as a commander, look at the game as a miniature war gamer. So thanks for watching. I'll try to get some live streams in. Just life is complicated right now. And thank you for your patience. And I think this is a valuable tool. People watch more of the regularly scheduled videos. We can do a little tighter focus here. A little less exploring, a little more, look, this is how you do. So that's kind of my thinking here. If you have any objections, if you have any complaints, if you have any praise, if you have any prayers, stick them right down there in the comments section. I read them all. I appreciate them all. Till next time, I'm praying for you.